I'm a guy that's 24. Each day I build some more. I like episode 7 and episode 8. I'm Rich Boy J. Hello boyos, Rich Boy J here, back at with another video, and this is going to be another episode of the LEGO Star Wars MOC Showcase. Yes, the MOC Showcase is finally back after quite a bit of hiatus. We are returning with the MOC Showcase, and I'm going to try to get these things out with regularity as I did before. If you're unfamiliar with it, this is a series I've created to highlight some of the best MOCs that I've come across on the internet. So if you find any of the MOCs in this video impressive, all I ask is that you go to the links I've included in the description and support the builders by giving them a like, comment, or even a follow. The first MOC we're going to take a look at today is by Jenkins, and it is a Corporate Alliance tank droid. I think this has to be the best tank droid I've seen built at this scale, and I think anyone who's planning on potentially building a Kashyyyk MOC or anything involving a tank droid should seriously consider looking into this build if you didn't already have a build on your own, because this thing is freaking awesome. There's so many techniques that I like employed on this. One of the first things is that he actually is using 3 different tread systems. So you can see there's the main tread that goes down the center of the vehicle, and then there's actually the 2 smaller treads on the left and right side of it, which is cool. I feel like you don't typically see people implement those second 2 sets of treads, so I actually like that he went the extra mile and actually included that. One of the first things that stuck out to me about this MOC is actually those helmets that are used as like the eyes, quote unquote, I guess they are. There's like some helmets, and it looks like there's a trans orange minifig head in there to kind of replicate the eye sections on the tank droids, and I think that it's actually like genius. That is so freaking cool. That's a good just usage of parts that you wouldn't normally find, especially on a vehicle MOC like this, so I give him so much credit for that. One of the other things I like about this MOC is just how, you know, studless and smooth the entire thing looks. I think that a lot of people might be tempted for the sides of the tank droid, specifically where like the top part of the tread kind of wraps over the top. There's that like round section, the big circle there. People are often tempted to use a big dish piece for that. I like that he brick built it. For one, it looks more accurate. You can get a lot more like color patterns in there, like with a dark gray ring in the middle of a bigger light gray circle, and there's also light gray in the middle of it. And 2, I don't think LEGO even makes dishes that size, so to get it at this scale, I think is actually probably especially necessary to like brick build that circular section right there. So I think it looks really good. I also think it looks good that he did actually use a dish in there. It's a 6x6, but it's kind of flipped around and it's actually used in the middle, so it adds a little bit of concavity there, a little bit of depth, and I think that looks really nice as well. If we move on to the next photo, we get just a schematic of the tank droid. I actually included this in here because maybe a lot of people haven't extensively looked at tank droids, but I thought it was a good way to compare his build and what a tank droid actually looks like. And one of the things I didn't really realize is that like towards the back, there's those like striped sections, and you can actually kind of see through the tank droid, like see through to the inside of it, and that's where that orange glow is coming from the inside of it. And I always wondered, like on the original tank droid set, LEGO made the base of that big dish that includes like trans orange, and I kind of wondered that because like looking at it, it's not obviously orange in any particular exterior area, but it's actually an orange glow coming from the inside. So I thought that was just kind of a cool thing to recognize. And if we go to the final picture, you can see that he's included a few trans orange elements on the inside, so it's not like a super prominent trans orange element. And I think that like if you really wanted to knock this thing out of the park, include maybe like a light brick or something on the inside to have like a trans orange glow from it. But if you're not wanting to implement something like that, I think that it's totally acceptable to just have some trans orange elements like you can see he did here from the reverse picture to kind of implement that. And also you can see that he has implemented those striped sections using the tiles towards the back of the vehicle, and I think that looks really nice as well. Overall, this is just such a solid looking vehicle. I'm always looking for minifig scaled vehicles to potentially go in MOCs that I do, especially ones that I just maybe aren't interested in building myself, and this is definitely one of them. Like if I did a Kashyyyk MOC down the line, I would have to look into including a bunch of these bad boys in the build. So I think this is a great looking tank droid. This is a vehicle I don't think I've ever reviewed on the MOC Showcase, showcase. So shout out to Thomas Jenkins for really knocking this one out of the park. Next up on the MOC showcase is actually a different type of build. This is by Kaiju World, and the interesting thing about this is it's technically not really a MOC. It's more of a mod of sorts, and it's not really one that's actually possible because some of the pieces in this just don't exist in these specific colors. But I know a lot of people were clamoring for a Jango Fett Slave 1 last year when we got the 20th anniversary sets. It ended up being another Boba Fett Slave 1. So Kaiju World basically took it upon himself to show us what it might have looked like if we gotten a Jango Fett version instead. And I think that this thing looks awesome. I think that this is so much more of an exciting set than what we ended up getting. Like, for one, the fact that we could have potentially gotten a Kaminoan is just makes me really sad. I really would have appreciated if we at some point could get a Kaminoan figure or any set from Kamino at any capacity. Like, it's honestly kind of shocking we don't have that at all. But there's a few really cool things I think that he did with this build. For one, the color swap for the most part looks really good. The biggest the biggest obstacle I think you would face if you even just wanted to build this on your own as a custom is that these dark blue wedge bricks right here, it was actually a new piece in that Boba Fett Slave 1, and it's only been made in, I think, dark red and white, doesn't yet exist in dark blue. So that would be the biggest obstacle to kind of get over if you did just want to build one of these for yourself. But I like how he's kind of like made this into an actual playset with a few other updates that we still haven't even gotten in Lego. Like I mentioned earlier, there's a Kaminoan figure, which, like I said, would just be incredible to get in any capacity. One of the cool things is he included a realistic Jango hairpiece. I think that this would actually be really nice for a Jango Fett or just the clones in general. Like, if Lego at some point wants to give us a set, you know, with like Jango without his helmet as he's supposed to be, then I think that that fin hairpiece actually works super well for it. And it also just works well for clones, obviously, because clones are Jango. If you go over to the right, he also did something cool with Obi-Wan. He actually gave him the old Luke hairpiece, which I think actually works really well for Obi-Wan. I think it's in that dark orange color, and it works really well for him. I think that the current episode 2 hairpiece for Obi-Wan just doesn't quite get the job done, but this one actually looks quite good. So this is really just something I don't want to talk too extensively about. I mean, it's a set. You guys have seen the set plenty of times before, but it is an interesting peek in what could have been if Lego decided to finally give us another Jango Fett Slave 1. Next up, we have this week's photography-based build. It's by Jukka 5000. It is Jakku. It's a good-looking photo of Jakku. I think I love how it has kind of that hazy look over it, like it's almost like the sand still hasn't quite settled. There's some just kind of being blown about in the atmosphere, and I think that that actually really just, I don't know, makes you feel like you're actually on Jakku. Most of this is actually comprised of sets. You can see we have the Unkar Plutz stand over to the left side, and then raised speeder in the back, and I think to the right might be that moisture evaporator that came in the sand speeder set, if I'm not mistaken. But this just looks really good. I love the setup of this. We have Unkar kind of walking about, and you even have a Gok droid chilling in the middle, and I think that the fact that he actually included real sand in this actually looks pretty cool, especially if you look over to the left side. It looks like he's filled some of the Lego buckets with actual sand, which is kind of interesting. You know, I don't super mind, especially for photographs, when people implement real life elements into the Lego elements. I think that it's kind of a cool thing, especially when it can be integrated as well as this one is. Like, this looks like, I mean, as real as you can get of a Lego photo. This is one of those photos that you can absolutely imagine being hung somewhere in someone's house, and it would just look really nice. I need to, I don't know, somehow coordinate like a system of getting Lego photographs like these printed out and framed and potentially distributed, because I would honestly just love to have so many of these photographs I reviewed like hung in my house somewhere. This next mock is by Fett 2011, and it is an outstanding looking throne room duel between Kylo Ren and Rey Palpatine and Rise of Skywalker, and I love this build so much. This is not actually a super recent build. I picked this out a while back when I was planning on doing this episode initially, but I figured I should still include this because I like this mock so much, and I definitely wanted to talk about it on the mock showcase. I think this mock was actually built before we got the sets of episode 9. That's why he doesn't actually have the correct figures, so I'm not really gonna hold that against him too much for this mock, because I think otherwise it actually looks pretty incredible. But some of the techniques I really like that he used is on that back window area. Like, this is, you know, the iconic Death Star window behind, you know, Emperor Palpatine's throne room, and there's some cool techniques in here. I think those quarter circle tiles work really well for this, and even some other cool techniques like the old flex tubing using the like Lego minifigure hand pieces stuck in either side to connect it to bar pieces. That's something I've never actually implemented into a MOC, but I see a lot of people do it. And it works really well with just like trying to get curves and other various shapes out of your flex tubing without having to use like a clip or something. Like this is a more seamless and natural way to connect flex tubing to bars and things of that sort. So I actually like that quite a bit, and you can see he uses it in the middle and then towards the bottom right section of that window. I also just love how broken down and decrepit everything's looking. I think one of my favorite techniques for when you want to build something that's kind of been, I don't know, unkempt, broken, destroyed in some way are those grill tile pieces, the 1x2s, because it kind of looks like you have metal that's fraying at the end. So I like the use of that at the edges of a lot of the built up sections. And then of course, like the ground, I think looks awesome. I love it when people do these freeform builds. There's just slopes, cheese slopes, all types of slopes at the edge of this thing to really kind of give the edges of the MOC that freeform aesthetic that people appreciate so much. For the actual battle area, this looks like a pretty simple build. There's mostly just rubble and kind of random pieces everywhere, but I always like to give builders credit for this because this isn't something you can simply just dump a pile of parts on and have it look correct, right? There's a kind of controlled chaos to this building technique. So while, you know, you do want to incorporate a variety of pieces, you want to have a diverse array of light grays, dark grays, to make it, you know, look like an actual building that is collapsed in some way. You don't want to have it look too random, like a just mess of parts. So there really is a delicate balance there. And one of the cool things you can actually do to ensure that it doesn't just look like a pile of random parts is make little sub-assemblies. For example, if you look closely at the piles of parts that he has here, some of them are actually things that are connected together. For example, there's these two like flat silver battle droid bodies connected with the battle droid arm, and then if you look over to the right, there's an even bigger sub-assembly. There's that like there's dark gray bar pieces, and there's like clips and things just kind of hanging off of it. And what this actually does is just it makes it look more realistic. If you just threw a pile of parts on the build, it would look more so like it's just a pile of parts on the build. But when you have varying sub builds kind of mixed in with it, it makes it look more realistic, like something collapsed, because you have basically different sizes of debris that are kind of hanging around. And I think that's something that anyone who wants to build something like this should absolutely take into consideration to just give it that extra look of realism. In conclusion, I think this is a fantastic looking build. This is one of those like small builds that, you know, people are always asking me like, oh, what's a small build I can do? Something I can just like sit on a shelf or just sit on my desk and have it not take up too much room, but still incorporate a lot of detail and different build techniques. This is absolutely a wonderful candidate for that. And you can see in just the variety of techniques I've been able to talk about in this build alone. So Fett, once again, wonderful job. You never cease to amaze me with your builds, man.